Hello everyone, welcome to Wednesday Night Live. This is Jenna here and I'm so excited for you to join us on YouTube. As you've probably seen, I've just installed a bunch of different series that we've done in the past. These are all pre-recorded. Wednesday Night Live is a ministry that the Lord put in my heart in October of 2017. And since then, we go live with worship and a devotion every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. on my Facebook and Instagram profiles, and I'll give you those two below. And the Lord has just been so faithful, and He's shown up every single week. And so the newest idea He has given me through different friends and supporters of Wednesday Night Live is to add an additional way for people to view and experience the Lord through YouTube and podcast. And so we're moving in those directions, and we're super, super grateful that the Lord has trusted us with this mission. And so I'm excited. So tonight we are continuing or finishing our series in Take Courage, Take Heart. It has been a 3-part series. Part 1, we talked or rather defined fear, anxiety, and doubt, because this series has been all about overcoming those 3 feelings, those 3 words. And so week 1, we talked about fear, anxiety, and doubt. And so week 2, we talked about this. I gave a message that I felt was straight from heaven, and we talked about our God is able to show up in our situation, but what if He doesn't? Our God is able, but what if He doesn't? And so we talked about having a but even if He doesn't type of faith. Even if He doesn't. And so if you haven't listened to those 2 messages, I strongly encourage you go back and listen to those 2 messages that I spoke on. But tonight, like I said, we're wrapping up our series, Take Courage, Take Heart, Overcoming Fear and Anxiety. As we close this series this week, we're going to be talking about why we can take courage, why we can take heart. What gives us this faith? What gives us this reassurance? Well, a few weeks ago, probably over a month ago, I was spending some time in Deep Creek, Maryland. It's about 2.5 hours away from where I live. My dad and stepmom have a camper out there, and so I just really enjoy going out there, being out in the mountains. And one of the upsides is that there's really no service out there. So it's a really good time to disconnect and not be on your phone or on social media or anything like that. But the downside to that is when you want to go home, we kind of all rely on our cell phones these days for everything, but one of those things that I use it for is a GPS. So because I know that almost 90% of my route I won't have service, I decided to load up my GPS and be prepared and do it ahead of time. And so I preloaded it up and put up my route to home so that even if I lose service, I will know where I'm going. So boom. I'm a planner, I like to prepare, so I was set to go. I'm about 20-30 minutes into my drive, and I am looking at the exit signs. And like usually if you're taking an exit, you're either going like east or west or north or south or whatever. So it was one of those things where it was like, 54A or 54B. I'm literally looking at the exit signs. My GPS is gonna tell me where to go. I look to go see which exit I'm supposed to go off of, and all of a sudden my phone shuts off. Boom, done, gone. My phone turns off. Now, side note, my phone is only partly to blame in this scenario because I boycott updates. I'm one of those people that has just like, remind me tomorrow, like 2 years later, I still have never updated my phone. So I'm probably about 3 or 4 updates behind. So I've been told that that's a side effect. So normally, I don't care. Normally it's worth it for me. I don't like to update my phone, and I don't really care that my phone shuts off randomly. But in this moment, I really cared. So I'm freaking out, right? I'm panicking. I'm like, what do I do? Where do I go? Right? So I am just like, I guess I just gotta pull over. So I pull over on the side of the road. And like I said, I'm panicking. Well, first I'm angry, because that's always my default emotion when I am in an unfavorable situation. So I get mad, and then after I'm mad, I start panicking, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm stuck, this is how it ends for me, what? I guess I'm just gonna have to sleep in my car tonight. My dad said he's leaving tomorrow. I guess he's just gonna see me on the side of the road, and then I can follow him home tomorrow. I am just doomsday, worst case scenario, like overthinking, like panicking. You guys might be thinking I'm dramatic and I'm crazy, but I really believe that there's more of you out there that are like me than you'd be willing to admit. Some of you out there, you are struggling with debilitating fear, paralyzing anxiety. And if you struggle with anxiety, then you know that it's like the thoughts, they just overwhelm you and they make you feel trapped and they make you feel stuck. And in this situation, I felt trapped. I felt like there was literally no escape out of it. Some of you feel that way right now too. Or maybe you're like the other half of me. Maybe you feel like you're so close to freedom. You feel like you're so close to reaching your goal or hitting the mark. You're so close, but you're at this crossroads and you don't know which road to take, and you're just so unsure, and so you just stay still and you feel stuck. I'm not gonna keep you all here long tonight, but I just wanna give us 4 practical things that we can do to overcome that paralyzing fear and paralyzing anxiety when we feel stuck, when we feel trapped. Number 1. Numero uno. There we go. Numero uno. Stop what you're doing. Stop it. Stop what you're doing. Rule number 1. Stop what you're doing. When I realized that I no longer knew where I was gonna go, I didn't chance it. I didn't say like, oh, I'm just gonna take a gamble, 50-50 chance I get it right. No, because I knew that one road was gonna lead me to my destination the right way, and another route was gonna lead me to my destination the wrong way. And I ain't about wasting time. God doesn't want you to waste time either. Some of you are wasting time on roads that God never told you to be on. Some of you are wasting times in relationships that God never told you to be in. And you feel like things are taking too long, and you feel like things are taking forever, and you're wondering why God is delaying everything when God is saying, listen, honey, I never even told you to be there in the first place. Now I'm gonna help you out. I will get you out, but I need you to come to me. And that's step 2, is you need to pray. Step 2 is you need to pray. You need to ask God. You need to talk to God. Praying isn't your thing. That's okay. Just take time to reflect, take time to meditate and just think. And I don't mean like the anxious type of thinking where your mind is racing a million miles a minute and you can't even really formulate an actual constructive thought. I mean really take time to think and reflect. Anytime I feel derailed from my plan, I always take time to ask God. After I've gotten all my anger out, after I've gotten all my anxiety out, I take time and I say, God, what is it that you're trying to tell me? Is there something that you're trying to teach me in this situation? Is there some lesson that I need to learn here? What is it that you're trying to tell me? This immediately redirects my thoughts from being angry and upset at God to being open and receptive to what He might need to tell me. Step 1, stop what you're doing. Step 2, pray, ask God, talk to God. Step 3 is don't move until you hear. Don't move until you hear from God. So many people, myself included, we get so caught up in our anxiety, we get so caught up in our doubt, we get so caught up in our fear that we feel like we just need to do something. We just need to move. We just need to take action. We just need to do something productive, right? They feel like the only way to get rid of that fear or get rid of that anxiety is to do something about it. People, we make decisions out of impulse instead of insight from God. We make decisions out of impulse instead of insight from God. As much as I wanted to get home in that moment, I knew that the best thing for me to do to not waste any more time is to not just keep moving around, not just keep making things happen, because I feel like moving in anxiety is almost like trying to dust the TV with a piece of paper. Let me see if I can find one. Paper, right? If I'm trying to dust off my laptop or the TV, it might be dusty, and I just go like this. It might be moving around a lot, might be making a lot of noise, but it's not really gonna do anything because this paper was not meant to dust. And so your anxiety was not meant to solve your situation. Your anxiety is a tactic that the devil tries to use to distract you from the solutions that can only come from God. Good God. He just gave me that in this little video. I know if you're listening to me and you have anxiety, like I know that this is like the worst suggestion I could ever make to you is to wait. Because your thoughts can become so overwhelming that you just feel like you need to move around and do something. And you might be moving around and you might feel like you're doing something, but at the end of the day, if I try to dust with a piece of paper, it's not going to get much off of it. And so trusting and not moving until you hear from God is the best way to not waste any more time and use any more energy that you've already wasted. As much as I wanted to get home, there were two options ahead of me. Sure, both would have gotten me out of that situation. Both would have solved the problem of me being on the side of the road, but only one of them was going to get me to my destination the right way. The way that God intended me to get there, in the right time frame that God wanted me to get there. The other one would have just delayed my purpose even more. Some of you though, you're so tired, or you were so tired of being in that situation that you made moves before God told you to. You took an exit that God did not lead you to. You were so tired of being single that you jumped into that relationship even though they weren't treating you the way that you deserved to be treated. They were lying, they were cheating, but you felt like it's better than being alone, so I guess I'll just stay. Some of you bought a brand new car. You didn't have the money, but you bought a brand new car because you felt so insecure about who you are and what you look like, and you just felt like, well, maybe if I have this, I'm gonna impress people and people will think that I'm successful, when really you're trying to cover up an insecurity inside of you. You took the first job offer that was handed to you, even though God told you, He promised you that He had something better waiting for you, but He told you you needed to wait a certain amount of time and you were gonna get it, but you were tired of waiting and you felt like God may not come through, so you just said, you know what, I'm gonna take it into my own hands and I'm gonna do it my way because I'm so scared that God's not gonna show up. But friends, let me tell you this, not every open door has your name on it. Just because there's an exit near doesn't mean it's the quickest route. Our anxiety makes us feel like we need to hurry and act fast before it's too late. But that mentality has never worked. I guarantee you, it has never worked for you. Not in the long run. Maybe in the short term, but not in the long run. And I'm speaking from personal experience as someone who struggled with anxiety for years and years and years. That mentality, act fast, do it now, it never works. Instead of wasting energy moving around a lot, wait on God. Don't move until you hear from God. And then once you hear from God, trust Him and go. Trust where God is telling you to go. Trust that there's a reason why He's telling you to go, or that He's telling you to wait. And then once He tells you, go. Don't look back. Go. In this particular situation, the one that I'm telling you about, God told me to turn around. God told me to go back to where I came from, the last place I had service. And I'm gonna be real with you, I was pretty upset. Like, I was already mad that the GPS turned off literally right before the exit signs. I was pissed off that I had to be on the side of the road for a good 10-15 minutes worrying and freaking out because there was no way to get out of this situation. I had zero service, and then God, you're telling me to go turn around and detour another 20 minutes? What? I'm not gonna lie, like, I was mad. And let me just say this, God is not intimidated by your feelings. God is not intimidated by your anger. God is not intimidated by you being upset. You can be real with God. You can tell God, God, I don't like this. I don't like feeling like this. I don't like what you're doing. God can handle it. God can handle it. He just wants you to be real with Him. Because once you can be real with Him and you can get all of that junk out of your system, then He can come in and fill you with peace. He can then come in, once you get all the anger out of your system, all the frustration, all the anxiety, and you express all of that to God, then you empty yourself of all of those feelings, and then God can come in and fill you with His supernatural peace that surpasses understanding. So be real with God. I was real with God. I said, God, I don't like that. But because I trust God and I know that He wouldn't do anything or tell me to do anything that didn't have a purpose, I trusted Him and I turned around anyways. And I drove back to where I came from. I detoured right back. I literally drove. I was right at what I felt like was the finish line, and I turned right back around. And I know why He told me to do that, because He was showing me something. He was saying, Jenna, my people are waiting for me to give them step one. They're waiting for me to give them the go ahead to exit out of that situation, but they still have not done step. They're waiting for me to give them step two when they have not done step one yet. They're waiting for me to give them the go ahead to clear out and go on, move on to step two with their lives, but I am still waiting. God is still waiting for you to do step one. Step one is a prerequisite to being ready and being ready for step two. Some of you, you're waiting on your wife, but God told you, I need you to get your finances in order first, and you still haven't done it. You're mad at God that he hasn't sent your wife yet, but you haven't done the first thing he told you to do. Some of you are waiting on your career and you're like, God, I'm ready for my next career move, but he's saying, I've been told you to go back. I wanted you to take business classes. And you still haven't done that. And I know I've talked about in other Wednesday Night Lives, I've talked about this idea, but some of us are driving around and we're waiting for step two. We're waiting outside of the exit doors of step two, and God is saying, I need you to go back and do step one of what I asked you to do. So God took me back. He took me back to the last place I had service. He took me back to the last place I had service to reload my route. And God is calling some of you to do the same thing tonight. God is telling some of you to go back to the last place you heard from him. Go back to the last place you heard from me, son. Go back to the last place you heard from me, daughter. And for some of you, that might be church. Some of you, that might be reading your word, getting back into reading your Bible. Some of you, it might be going back to that small group or that Bible study that you haven't been to in months because you fell off, you fell away from God, and now you feel condemned and you feel ashamed and you don't want to go back and sit in front of those people, but that's the last place that you heard from God, and God is saying, I need you to go back there. Whoever, wherever it is, whatever that looks like for you, God is saying, I need you to go back to the last place you heard from me so that I can reload your route, so that I can reload you with purpose and promise. So as I close, why can we take courage? Why can we take heart? What gives us this reassurance and this hope? Well, John 16:33 says this. I have told you these things. God is saying, I've already told you. I've already promised you. So that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble. God didn't promise you a life without trouble. He didn't promise you a life without worry. He didn't promise you a life without struggles. But he said, take heart. I have overcome the world. I have overcome the world. Not just Maryland, not just the US. God has overcome the world. That means that everything that's happening in your life, everything that's happening in your situation, God has already overcome it. Everything that's happening in your best friend's life or your mom's life or your loved one's life or your coworker's life that you are praying and believing God for, God has already overcome it. God has already overcome, and that is why we can have reassurance and we can take courage and we can take heart. Psalm 23:4 says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Psalm 34:4 says, I sought the Lord and he answered me and he delivered me from all of my fears. All of your fears can be delivered when you ask God and you let him come in and give you the answers to your situations, and all your fears have to disappear. Psalm 27:1 says, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is my stronghold of my life. Whom shall I be afraid? If the God of the universe, if the God of this world and this universe has overcome every situation, then what do you have to be afraid of? What do you have to fear? Because God has already taken care of it. God has already answered your prayer and has handled your situation. So friends and family, I encourage you, take courage, take heart. God has already overcome. When he died on that cross for you, he said, it is finished. Brothers and sisters, family, friends, it is finished. It's over. So take courage and take heart. Well, that's it for tonight's episode of Wednesday Night Live, the final installment of the series, Take Courage and Take Heart. I have loved this series. I hope you have enjoyed it as well. I pray that God has spoken to you in the season of the life that you've needed it most. Please feel free to join us live every Wednesday on Instagram or Facebook at 8 p.m. You can watch on playback on either of those platforms, or you can just join us here on YouTube and rewatch this playback sermon of that series. So I love you guys. We are praying for you. If you have need, if you need prayer, we are covering you with prayer. Feel free to reach out to us, and we will pray with you and believe with you. God is doing amazing things. Miracles are happening every single day, and it's an honor to join you in this walk and in this journey. So love you guys. We're praying for you. We love you, and we will see you next week.